I'm going to tell you what happened to me in Normandy, France. I thought I was going on a very peaceful vacation to have some quality time with my partner, enjoy beautiful landscapes, have some rest. But no. Instead, I got into a real whirlwind of beautiful saints, sensual French soldiers, and an obvious tension between two men in classical paintings. And I've seen a real Caravaggio, of course. It was the first time I was that close to a Caravaggio. I almost touched it with my nose. And while being that close, my belief system on what Baroque realism actually is, it was totally destroyed. And I did one more thing that many French will find offensive, an unforgivable touristic sin. I didn't go to see Monet. I totally skipped his water lilies. I'm such an irresponsible tourist. So let me tell you what happened in Normandy. There's one thing I enjoy very much when I travel through Southern Europe, Italy, or France. It's no matter where you go, a big city or a small village surrounded by literally nothing. I mean, woods, lakes, nature. But even in that small village, you will find art. You will find paintings. You will find artists. And this element of discovering something what nobody else knows about, that's what makes it interesting to me. And every time I travel, I go look for art. And from those artworks of local artists, and I do believe it very much, you will learn more about culture and history of that region than from any history book. And often when I go on a travel, I go unprepared. Yes, and while there, I'm learning something new. In this travels through Normandy, it was the case with Georges Braque. Do you know who it is? I didn't know either. I'm not kidding. Well, I knew slightly who he was because I heard his name. And I knew that he is the father of Cubism. But if you tell me Georges Braque, I would not name his paintings. I didn't know much about him. But still, I knew that in a village next to my village, there is this church, and at the cemetery at this church, there is the grave of Georges Braque, the founder of Cubism. So I went there. And you know, the strange thing is, sometimes we go see places, not because we're drawn to these places intellectually, no, but because we want to feel something. If you say founder of Cubism, okay, there is some certain flair, some certain atmosphere should be there. So I went to see this place and maybe just to make sure that this atmosphere is there. And it was. So his grave in the cemetery, I had hard times finding it actually, but it's the largest grave and I couldn't find it because I was expecting something cubistic, very bright, very colorful, but it was not the case. It was very modest but still beautiful. But the main thing what surprised me while I was there, it's really the atmosphere. The whole surrounding area is, wow, it's just full of air and wind and the endless horizon and the English Channel right down there. Just beautiful. Yeah, and I would say that it's not the grave of the father of Cubism that moved me, but it's the whole atmosphere that kind of touched me very deeply. I think this place, there was this presence of silence. It was so, you could touch it. Even though it was very windy, you know, it's all so, I don't know, peaceful and quiet. So the church was open and I went inside and I didn't expect to see something that kind of surprised me in a good way. There were 3 paintings by another great French, unknown to me, painter. His name is Michel Siri. And again, I knew nothing about him. Later, I read something about him and I learned that he was a great French painter. He lived nearly 100 years from 1919 to 2018. And he was very Catholic, but he was a self-taught painter. So those of you who are self-taught, here it is. A great encouragement to all of you. Yeah, well, he studied some art, but not painting per se. And it was one of the paintings in the center was Christ the Redeemer. And when I was standing there, I was thinking there is something interesting and maybe even important happening in this painting. Not subject-wise, but technique-wise. Because all 3 paintings, they looked like huge illustrations to biblical stories. Well, one of them for sure. Figures are so very strongly cut out. And those paintings are everything I'm against, actually, in painting. Very sharp outlines, everything is very illustrative and very colorful. And those colors are much stronger than mannerism colors in Pontormo painting. It looked like everything opposite from what I do in my art. And I found that it's so interesting to see these real artworks, contemporary, in an old Catholic church. And yeah, as I said, in the middle of nowhere, in a small village. And even though those paintings are not what I would paint and how I would paint it, but still I found it beautiful. I found it very, yeah, very different from what I do, but very beautiful. And this also made me think about Catholic Church. No matter what we say about the church, we can, mock it or we can support it, but still we cannot deny how hugely Catholic Church supported artists and arts. And honestly, this experience that I have in churches in Italy or in France, this experience is totally different from what I have here in the Netherlands. In France and in Italy, figurative art and figurative depictions of male figure, they're not shocking anybody. They do not provoke panic. They're just there, and everyone accepts it. And those figures, those paintings, they belong in the church so naturally, very organic. But in the Netherlands, that relationship between church and figurative art today, I would call it very tense. And I had some experiences with it. I would say people are more suspicious. Religious people are even more suspicious toward figurative art here in the Netherlands. Yeah, that's my experience. But anyway, and this place where this church is and the grave of this father of Cubism, Monet and Pissarro visited this village. It's like the paradise for Impressionists. And knowing that all those great painters, they were visiting the same place where I'm at right now, it kind of, it gives you goosebumps when you're there. You're standing there and you're looking at the same scenery they were watching, and you were seeing the same landscapes they were painting. Yeah, this. To me, it's just, yeah, I love it. And then another day, I went to another church where I was not so impressed. I have visited the church of Saint Joan of Arc, Jeanne d'Arc, in Rouen. It is a very contemporary building, like very modern, very huge, and honestly, not really my taste, but hey, it doesn't have to correspond with my taste, Inside, when I stepped inside, yeah, it's a huge building. A lot of stained glass, very beautiful, but also not really my thing because I like to see natural color, natural light. Stained glass gives me some kind of, I don't know, this cold, emotional state. Yeah, I know it's beautiful. It takes a lot of work, probably, but not my thing. It's like filtered light, filtered life, filtered nature. Something filtered, but hey, it was not the only disappointment in that church for me. Yes, the other disappointment was that I did not see no paintings in that church, unfortunately. And it's so strange because Jeanne d'Arc, Joanne of Arc, is that how you pronounce her name? She is so famous and she was painted so many times. She is depicted in so many artworks and no paintings in that church. Maybe they have their reason for not having paintings. So this church, beautiful, maybe huge, of course, but did not touch me. So I went on to my next stop, Musée des Beaux-Arts in Rouen. And this is where all my senses woke up. Because I didn't know, when I went there, I didn't know that they had real Caravaggio, real Velázquez, real Veronese, real Monet. Well, Monet, I was kind of expecting to see him there, but real Caravaggio, really? I saw Caravaggio's Christ at the column, and the strangest thing was that it was the first time that I've seen Caravaggio so close. Yes, I literally touched it with my nose. I mean, I didn't, but I could have. And it was hanging so low, and I could study everything: his light, his shadows, his outlines, yeah, and the outlines, they were a real shock. When I studied Christ's arm, my whole artistic world literally collapsed because the outlines, they were so sharp. And I'm always against sharp. I always say that there are no sharp outlines in Baroque, but there they are. There they were in Caravaggio's painting. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, when I was studying those outlines with my nose, I kind of thought that it's so cool that when you learn, when you know the rules, when you know how to paint, then you also know when is the right moment to break those rules. And Caravaggio did it. And this fact that he broke that rule, it only supports the rule. And it also tells me that that real mastery in painting is never mechanical. So I believe that Caravaggio had his reasons for that sharp outline, and he did it. How cool is this? I just love it. And I love to be surprised in that way. In the same museum, there are a couple of other paintings that kind of touched me, really. One of the paintings was The Workers in a Vineyard by Lambert Jacobs. Why I was pleased to see that painting? Because of two shirtless men. Yeah. And in the composition, there one at the left, the other one at the right, and they are painted very beautiful. And you can see that they are so masculine and so strong, but at the same time so sensual. And then there was Veronese at the same museum, in the same room where Caravaggio's painting is. And it kind of makes me, I don't know, mad or sad that sometimes museums place a huge famous painting or a famous painting in one room, and then they cover the walls in the same room with other great paintings, but nobody's paying attention to those paintings. Yeah, it makes me, I think, more sad than mad. This masterpiece that Caravaggio, in my case, or I'm also thinking about The Girl with a Pearl Earring by Vermeer in the museum in The Hague. There is this famous girl with a pearl earring, and everybody is gathered to take selfies and but nobody is paying attention to what's going on around the girl with a pearl earring. The walls are covered with other masterpieces. So Veronese was right across from Caravaggio's Christ with a Column. After studying Caravaggio with my nose again, I went to see Veronese. Another painting that stopped me was The Seated Gladiator by Jean-Germain Drouet. I know it's not Baroque, it's neoclassicism, but still, it's very beautiful, very impressive, very sensual too. The next painting that was waiting for me, and I didn't know it, was Achilles Introduced to Nestor by Joseph Désiré Court. And in that painting, there is so much story and so many figures, and the composition was so interesting. Achilles is blonde and beautiful, very unusual, not my type of man, but still he's there. I was much more interested in a bare-chested soldier standing across from Achilles. And seeing those two figures in that painting and remembering them now, it makes me want to admit something. I do look at male figure in paintings very specifically. I do objectify them. I do objectify those figures. I think all of us, we do objectify what we see in painting. Painters spend weeks, months, sometimes even years of creating those beautiful figures and faces. And then we come to see these paintings in a museum, and we stand there and we think, and we pretend to think about composition, light, and shadows. Yeah, right. I don't buy it. Of course composition matters. Of course light and shadow, they do matter in classical art. But beauty? It does matter too, right? And if an artist paints a beautiful male figure, then maybe this artist wants us to see that beautiful male figure, not just think about the composition, light and shadow. And later that week, when I was visiting the museum of Nicolas Poussin, another great French painter, I kind of found a painting that resembles the composition and the figures from that painting in the Musée des Beaux-Arts. It was Coriolanus pleaded by his family. You see, light is changing constantly here in the Netherlands. In Amsterdam, to record something having natural light is almost impossible. It's almost impossible. But anyway, so that painting in the museum of Nicolas Poussin, the same composition, really. When I first looked at it, I had to sit down because I thought, I've seen this painting already a day ago in the Musée des Beaux-Arts. But no, it was a different painting. The same composition, almost the same figures. And I think it's not just, it's because of the same composition. I think it's also because of the same emotional atmosphere that this painter created in this canvas. And how we do these parallels from one painting to another, we do it unintentionally. Because when we see a painting, we have some experience with it. We have some emotional experience with it. And we might not remember the name of the painter. We might not remember anything about this painting, but we do remember how we felt. And when we see another painting that is similar to that emotional state that we've experienced before, then we're like, oh, these are two very similar. So the painting of Nicolas Poussin and the painting with Achilles, to me, they're one piece, because there was Achilles and his soldier, and here's the Coriolanus and his soldier. And you know what the strangest thing is? If you remove everything from that painting and leave just those two figures, you will have a very interesting relationship in that painting. A totally different story. This illustrates another cool thing about art. When we see a painting, we might not necessarily see what the artist wanted to tell us, but we see what we want to see. We bring our baggage, our emotional experiences, and we project them into this painting. So to me, it was about the relationship between these two beautiful men in one painting and in another painting. And that's why paintings, they become very personal to us. Don't you think? And then there was Monet in the same museum, and also in the same region in Normandy. I could have gone visiting him to see his water lilies, but no, I didn't. And I know it sounds very criminal, because if you go to Normandy, you have to see Monet, you have to see water lilies. But I skipped it. Yeah, I didn't want to go because it's such a hassle and so many people. And no, this is not how I would like to enjoy art. But strangely enough, the same week, I have seen water lilies in nature. And it's so cool that you know there are Monet's water lilies. You don't go to see them, but you see water lilies here. And again, those parallels. Yeah, I think what I wanted to say is that sometimes you kind of ignore the painting, but you see the subject of this painting in real life, and you're like, wow. When I came back to the Netherlands, I kept thinking about those water lilies, the real ones. And the fun part is that a bit later, when I returned, I started painting water lilies, these ones. When I was in Normandy, in museums and everywhere, I was kind of surrounded by mythology in art. And those water lilies, my wow experience, when I came back, I kept thinking about water lilies, mythology, and I'm like, okay, who is the one character that I do associate with water lilies? Hylas, the lover of Hercules. So I started painting water lilies, but it's not a landscape. It's not a still life like famous impressionists would do. These are my water lilies and my interpretation of that experience I had in Normandy. And you see, during that vacation, I was not painting. I went just, to relax, to have my eyes reset and have some quality time with my partner and my dog. So I did not bring anything with me, not even a sketchbook. I did not do nothing, artistically speaking. And still, when you don't do anything, you absorb everything around you. And then when you return, when you're back home, all those memories and flashbacks and those pictures and colors and emotions and impressions, they're becoming a painting. And my relaxation, my vacation in Normandy, it all turned out to be my, Hylas experience. I think, because it all led to this painting. I was telling you about those uncomfortable elements that I've experienced in Normandy with Caravaggio's sharp outlines, with those similarities in composition between two paintings. And I thought it was one painting. But when I came back and started painting my Hylas, I caught myself thinking that I do feel very uncomfortable working on this painting. And I did not expect it. And I was shocked that I even have these thoughts, that I'm ashamed to paint what I paint. Yeah, I don't want to finish this video on a very tragic note, so I leave this tragedy for another video, next one. But yeah, that was my trip to Normandy. I'm Dimitri, figurative artist in Amsterdam, and I will see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.